62-60, lost to Maysville, I should say, 48 to 55, and then they put together 2 home wins against West and Meadowbrook, and they lost at Sheridan.
So New Lex has had a very tough schedule to begin the season. They're 4-3 overall, 2-3 in the MVL, so they're 2-0 in non-conference games, which bodes well for tonight if they keep on that theme. But this is a whole different animal they're up against tonight, the Bishop Waterson Eagles. They're really, really big and athletic.
Yes, they are. And again, you had asked the question earlier. It's worth asking now is how many of these kids played football? And if they played football, they're pretty athletic.
They sure are. I recognize a couple of names from the football team on this basketball roster, but, they're just now getting their basketball legs underneath them. And Bishop Waterson's always a team to contend with in every sport, so if you want to beat the Bishop Waterson Eagles, you're going to have to bring your A game.
And, and maybe that's why this game was scheduled with Coach Dewar. Maybe he said to his kids, hey, if we want to get to the place, got to toughen up our schedule, and this would certainly fall into that category, Ted.
I agree. 2 seasons ago, New Lexington fell in the district semis. A year ago, lost a heartbreaker to Warren in the district championship. Jeremy Dewar and this Panther squad desperately want to take that next step, considering their 2 leading scorers, Bentley Hanson and Isaiah Stevens, are seniors. This is their last opportunity to do it with this group.
By the way, the JVs won tonight for Waterson by the score of 55-23. We think the starting lineup for New Lex will go this way, as it has the entire season. 5'10 senior Bentley Hanson, 6'1 senior Isaiah Stevens, 5'10 sophomore Lane Ratliff, Paul Stenson's a 6'2 junior, and Eli Stevens a 6'4 sophomore. Off the bench, we expect Malachi Thresher, a 6'4 senior, and Corey Adam, a 5'8 senior. So for Coach Dewar, Ted, he's had the luxury of keeping his 5 starters the entire way. Now in game number 8, they've pretty much gotten to the point where they know each other's goods and not so goods.
Absolutely, and it was pretty much the identical starting lineup to finish last season with the exception of Jarek Braglin, who graduated. But yeah, these guys still getting accustomed to one another. And you mentioned Eli Stevens at 6'4", Paul Stenson at 6'2". That's really the only size New Lex is going to put out on the floor. So those 2 desperately cannot get into early foul trouble like we've seen them do to begin this season and have to take an early seat, because they need those 2 on the floor to battle on the glass.
Yeah, because when we look at the starting lineup, what we think will be the starting lineup for Bishop Waterson, they're going to be in the middle, 6'3", 6'5", 6'5", and they've got some guys coming off the bench, 6'4", 6'7", 6'6", so it's going to be a war inside for New Lexington, and Eli Stevens is going to have to stay on the floor.
He sure is. He picked up an early ticky-tack foul 25 feet away from the basket a week ago, and those are the things he cannot afford to do. You need to use your 5 fouls wisely, and they just haven't done that to this point. And, you mentioned the size of Waterson. They're not only big, they're athletic. We're watching them warm up. They passed the eye test, one would say. So New Lexington defensively definitely has their work cut out for them here tonight.
Well, we believe, based on last night's starters under Coach Joe Lombardo for the Eagles, Landon Johnson, a 5'11 senior, Michael Mulligan, a 6'3 junior, Dominic Theotto, a 6'5 senior, Jonathan Warlock, 6'5 senior, and Carter Belisari, a 6'2 sophomore. So, as you mentioned, Ted, very athletic. I imagine pace will be very important here for New Lex. They like to get up and go, but they could also defend in the half court. We're going to have to see what Waterson really brings to the half court.
Yeah, New Lexington offensively scoring a hair less than they were a year ago. They averaged a little over 60 points as a team a year ago. I think you mentioned they're around 55 right now. And Isaiah Stevens and Bentley Hanson this year through 8 games averaging 17 and 13 respectively. Both those about 4 points below what they averaged a year ago at 21 and 17. So I expect as this season rolls along, those 2 will also kick into high gear offensively.
Well, you're listening to high school basketball here on South 60. Tonight's game is presented by the 21st Century program at New Lexington High School. If you're interested, please call the high school for information and enrollment. The scoreboard portion of South 60 Films is brought to you by 740 Thread. It's a Junction City company, and they're the local experts for custom printing and embroidered apparel. South 60, by the way, that's us. We are the official partner of New Lexington City Schools Athletics. We're getting ready to start the national anthem. So if you would join us in honoring America with the anthem, we will be back with you just after the anthem. And we welcome you back to New Lexington High School, where tonight the Panthers are hosting the Bishop Waterson Eagles out of Columbus. And you know, Ted, when you look at New Lexington as the officials are being announced, 60% of their offense comes from Bentley Hansen and Isaiah Stevens. My guess is that Waterson has scouted New Lex. What do you think Waterson is probably thinking when they look at those two guys and what the other three guys bring to the floor?
I think you're right. I think they're going to try to get the ball out of those two players' hands and force someone else to shoot the basketball and beat them. That's, you know, if you, like you said, if you scout this team, you're going to see the bulk of the points being scored by two players. So your defense is certainly going to be keyed in on those two.
Well, the starting lineup for the Waterson Eagles is the same lineup they started last night. Landon Johnson, 5'11 senior. Michael Mulligan, 6'3 junior. Dominic Theato, 6'5 senior. Jonathan Warlock, 6'5 senior. And Carter Belisari, 6'2 sophomore. For the Panthers, they'll go with Bentley Hansen, the 5'10 seniors. Isaiah Stevens, the 6'1 senior. Paul Stenson, 6'2 junior. Lane Ratliff, 5'10 sophomore. And Eli Stevens, the 6'4 sophomore. They will bring off the bench Corey Adam and Malachi Thresher. New Lexington, mainly a man-to-man team. Ted, with the size Waterson has, do you anticipate maybe some zone?
It wouldn't be out of the question, that's for sure. If they start getting pounded inside offensively, it might force Jeremy Dewar's hands. But you're right, he prefers a man-to-man off or a man-to-man defense, and his Panthers have been up to the test so far this season. They've lost some really close games. This past Tuesday, 65-63 in Thornville to a very good Sheridan team. So battle-tested are the Panthers.
Yeah, at Maysville they lost by 7. Controlling the tip is Waterson. They are on the left wing. New Lexington swings it around, looks back to the high post area, and then a look inside. Shot up is good. That is Michael Mulligan on the backdoor cut, and the layup 2-0 in favor of Waterson. Looks like the Eagles also in man. High ball screen. It's Isaiah Stevens, misses the shot. Rebounded off to Waterson. Here come the Eagles on the run. That is Landon Johnson to the right corner. Nothing there. He'll take the three. In and out. Missed the shot. Foul over the top. And that will go against Carter Belisari here in the first.
Great rebounding position by Bentley Hansen. At 5'10", the team's leading rebounder at 4 per game.
Bentley Hansen with the basketball. He is being guarded by Michael Mulligan. Gives it up over to the Panthers, they swing it around, and the screen and roll for Hanson from Stevens. Nothing there. He'll have to kick back to Stevens, back on top to Isaiah Stevens. Left-handed dribble between the legs, crossover, back to Bentley Hanson. He'll drive left hand, spin dribble, can't get it up off glass, and then kick it back around. New Lexington having a little bit of trouble getting the right shot. Down 2-0, 6:40 to go in the first quarter. Eli Stevens posts inside, nothing cooking. There will be a drive and then a long shot by the Panthers. It's good by Paul Stenson. Stenson buries the three.
Stenson's a very capable shooter. He doesn't take a lot of them, but if you leave him open, he can certainly knock that one down.
Landon Johnson picks up the dribble, goes on top, and then they swing the ball around to Belisari. He will look inside on a little basket cut and a layup up and in by Waterson, and that is Johnson.
One thing I know